So I think we mentioned that it's Labor Day weekend, and the talk title today is Labor of Love. And of course, being me, it's a play on words, but we'll get into the detail. So Labor Day is all about celebrating the people who do the work in the world. And it started out actually in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution and the advent of things like assembly lines, where people who were laboring became less artisans and more numbers. So it was an idea of taking the people who were doing that work, taking off a day to honor us. Interestingly, tying this back into New Thought and our ability to create our new experience with our intention. When we're doing prayer, either for ourselves or for other people, and we can pray for anything in the world, for anything in our experience to change, they pretty much all fit into 5 different areas: health, wealth, love, work, and spirit. And those are abbreviations. Those are the 5. So it doesn't matter what it is that we're praying for, it's probably going to be about health, wealth, love, work, or spirit. And interestingly, the one about work is the only one that we really have to explain. Well, we have to explain spirit a little bit too. Because sometimes people, come to us, I want to be more spiritual. Sorry. You are already 100% spiritual. You cannot possibly be any more spiritual than you already are. However, asterisk, we can pray for a deeper awareness of the truth of how spiritual we are. And that applies in a lot of the other areas. You can't pray to be love. You are love. You might not be experiencing love. So the prayer is all about changing our experience of being spiritual. Health, wealth, love, work, and spirit. Health, pretty obvious. That's about our physical body being healthy and vital and comfortable and being able to have that physical experience that we want to have without distractions, so that we can move through our lives in joy and peace and harmony and love. Wealth, that's pretty obvious. Most people just think that's money. It's not just money, though, because people who have a lot of money might not feel like they are completely supplied, whether it's with time or with other resource or with some of the other areas. So wealth is about enoughness and having that adequacy to support us. Love, love's pretty obvious. It's about loving relationships, having that beloved to spend our lives with, if that's what we want to do. It's about love in our family. It's about feeling love in our community. It's about knowing that we are loved and loving and lovable. So health, wealth, love, pretty easy. Spirit, we can explain that one. Work. The first thing people say is, you already did wealth. The only reason that I'm going to work is to make a paycheck, so why are we doing this again? That is something that I think we can describe as an assumption. The assumption that we have to work in order to have wealth. Now that's true for a lot of people, and that's the way our world is set up. So you get a job, you earn a paycheck, you live your life. And there are people who go through their lives working 9 to 5, as Dolly Parton said in the opening song, just to make a living, and then go have the enjoyable parts of their life, the rewarding parts, the otherwise fulfilling parts of their lives after 5 or on the weekend. And we are completely free to do that. That's what the reading was about. You are completely free to have a miserable job that you hate, to make the rent, and enjoy yourself when you're not at work. Work becomes something that you can complain about. People say they want to go get a job. There's nobody out there saying, hey, let's give out some jobs. When we get a job, it's because somebody has something that they want to accomplish and they need help to get it done, even if it's on an assembly line. That assembly line's not going to run without the people working on the assembly line. The job is the opportunity or the invitation for whoever it is to share the talents, the gifts, the time, whatever expertise they have in exchange for compensation. Work is our creative expression. Now, it is possible for somebody to express themselves creatively by working for the sanitation department. Now, you've seen people loading a garbage truck, and they're doing it really badly. And they're spilling stuff all over the place, and they're denting the cans, and they're grumbling, and they're, throwing, denting people's cars and stuff. And I've seen a dance of the guy who's jumping off the back of the truck, picking up the thing over here like this, and running back and forth. And a couple of times I've been behind a trash truck, and there's two of them doing that. And it's just fun to watch. Same job, same pay, different experience. They don't have to be miserable until 5 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever it is that they finish their job in order to feel joy. We can do that whenever. And interestingly, work in the world of physics has a different definition. I'm going to read it to you. Force times the distance through which it acts, specifically the transference of energy equal to the product of the component of a force that acts in the direction of the motion of the point of application of the force and the distance through which the point of application moves. Got that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is this car?
The actual definition of work is moving something, is using force to move something a distance. Which interestingly means that if there's a big heavy weight here, and I grab onto it, and I struggle, and I strain, and I'm working up a sweat, and I just can't get it to move, I have done zero work. Because work is about the result. It's about getting it to move. I take that same weight, and I balance it at the top of a cliff, and I push it, and it goes a half a mile down. That's work. But it took nothing for me to do it. The big question is, what's work to you? So I was riding around on my bike yesterday. I got a 27 speed bike. And as I'm going up a hill, I realized that I could get into a position where I could push on those pedals and the bike wasn't going to go anywhere. And that would feel like a lot of work, even though it's not work, it's struggle, because the bike's not moving. Or I can shift down and let my feet move really quickly and the bike move relatively slowly, but make some progress and not have to struggle and get up to the top of the hill. I can choose which gear I'm going to be in. Here's the key point. You can choose what gear you're going to be in your work life. Because every one of us has the ability to move our feet, has the ability to share our gifts. We are all unique. We are all the same, and we're all unique. We all have a special combination of gifts, skills, talents, perspectives, experiences, understandings, and ways that we engage with the world. So our creative expression, or what we abbreviate as work with health, wealth, love, work, and spirit, our creative expression is how we share those gifts and talents. And that kind of changes Labor Day. It kind of changes a job as well. There's a great story that Eric Butterworth tells in Spiritual Economics. A Harvard professor said that the university pays him very handsomely to do that which he would do for free if he could afford it. That's creative expression. Getting paid handsomely to do that which you would do for free if you didn't need the money to live the rest of the life. Butterworth also says that there's a grave in Boston Common. Here lies whoever who cobbled shoes to the glory of God. Because you can do it to the glory of God, or you can do it because that son of a bitch told you to. And it's choice. There's a fellow known as Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection, and there's actually his book, The Practice of the Presence of God. And it's very Christian. He was a monk in a monastery. They made him into a saint, I think. Wants to be called Brother Lawrence. He was born in 1611 in France, and he was 50, mid-50s when he went into the monastery. He'd done odd jobs and things like that, considered himself to be clumsy and thought that God would just punish him for being clumsy. But the thing that happened with Brother Lawrence is that he felt the fire. He felt the presence of God in everything that he was doing. His job in the monastery was washing pots and pans. These are greasy pots and pans with baked on stuff. There was no Teflon, okay, in the 17th century. And there were a lot of pots and pans because there were a lot of monks in the monastery. So that's what he did. And I think he reported to the treasurer of the monastery. But he became renowned because regardless of what he was doing, he was focused on spirit. He was practicing the presence of God. Read a little bit from this. in a letter or a conversation, Brother Lawrence said, "We should feed and nourish our souls with high and noble thoughts of God. Those elevated thoughts will yield great joy because increased devotion does that. We ought to put a fire under our faith. We do not need to have so little faith. People tend to divert their attentions away from faith, amusing themselves with trivial devotions without the daily stability of faith. Faith is stable as can be. Good, because faith can make us truly happy, genuinely fulfilled in God. Really, we must give ourselves completely to God, both physically and spiritually, seeking fulfillment only in doing His will. His will may lead us through some pretty rough experiences or some pretty nice experiences. Whichever, God uses both kinds of experience. The surrendered person senses that." There's lots of possibilities. There's lots of possibilities in my life. There's lots of possibility in your life. And if you find yourself doing anything, and in any of those 5 different categories, where it's not fulfilling, where you're not getting that connection, that upliftment, there is an opportunity to change your thinking and uplift your life. I'll tell you my personal work story. This was my prayer for perfect work. I did this I checked back, it was 1999. And at that point, I was living on the main line and working in Pennsauken, New Jersey. And I was studying New Thought. And I would, as I was driving back and forth to work, I would do my prayers out loud in the car. This was before the days of Bluetooth, when sitting in the car talking to yourself really made people think you were crazy. And driving back and forth across the Betsy Ross Bridge. Fine-tuning, not the job that I wanted to have, but the experience that I wanted to have when I was working. Because I'm actually on my 9th career at this point. Minister is my 9th career. I'm hoping to settle down on that one now. The first one was zany morning show personality on the radio. So we've actually made some progress, I think.
So to speak.
Good news, bad news, who can tell, right? So the prayer, after all those trips back and forth, was, I do things that I enjoy and am good at, for clients who find it helpful and an employer who finds it valuable. I'm appreciated and respected by my colleagues and generously compensated for my contributions. And that was in the 90s when I was working in New Jersey. And along about the same time, I got into a prosperity class because there was a 90-day process to set an intention for the job or the work that you wanted to have. So at that point, I set my intention to be one of the country's leading consultants in digital printing and variable data. And that was a brand new field that didn't exist at that point. The company I was working for was kind of maybe thinking about getting involved in it. I started playing around with that in 1998, and by 1999, our company formed an alliance with another company, created a new organization, and I got put in charge of the training and consulting operation nationally. And I got to be involved in the biggest, most fun, most challenging experiences of how we're going to personalize this stuff and put it in the mail or send it out to people, personalized magazines. And, I mean, it's all stuff that Not only can anybody do it, at this point nobody does it anymore because nobody likes stamps, which is another reason that I've had 9 careers, but we won't get into that at this point. So it was remarkably quick how I got up that seemingly difficult curve, where I was one of the leading consultants in this field. I did stuff that nobody else had been able to do and has not been able to repeat since, which was pretty cool. And along the way, they kept on giving me more and more money, and then I went to work for a software company, and that was a new experience, and I got to take the same gifts and talents and really be appreciated by the company. And I went to work for somebody else who called me his secret weapon. And the same thing again. I was very highly valued and well compensated for sharing my gifts. And I've gotten out of those businesses and gone into different businesses, and I continue to be able to share my gifts and talents in a way that brings more good to my clients and my customer and my employer if they're different. I ran my own business for 8 years where the client and the employer were the same. It means you need to make somebody happy, so they'll write me a check. That's the nature of business, right? And each one of those has been different, and each one of those has been fun, and each one of those has been an opportunity to share. So I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking to give. I'm looking for how can I be a beneficial presence and help out in this particular situation. And that's the invitation for all of us. How can I share myself? What am I willing to offer? What am I asking for in return? Because that's the negotiation. I'm giving I currently have a day job, and I am sharing my expertise joyously and very effectively in exchange for the paycheck that they're giving. And everybody's happy. And my colleagues appreciate me, and I have an opportunity to do what I do, and it's completely head-based, which is kind of different than what we do here. I'm willing to give it up. We'll see what happens. And the other definition of labor doesn't have to do with work. It has to do with childbirth. My wife has been a childbirth educator for 20-something years, and we had this long line of people when she was teaching private classes coming to our house. You know, mom looking like a weeble, dad or partner coming along. And they were learning how to go through the childbirth process. And for a little while, I would have the opportunity to talk to them before she started saying, we don't need you to be involved in this anymore, Bill. Go preach to somebody else. But the insight that I got, and what I really love sharing with people, is you are not going through childbirth. Especially for first-time parents, you are starting your family. You're going from couple to family. And you get to be intentional through that labor, through that process, and all of the physical stuff that's going on as that baby comes into the world. What kind of world is that going to be? What kind of family is that going to be? What kind of experience is that going to be? What kind of dad and mom do you want to be? What do you want to see reflected back from that child as it grows up? Because that's the imprint we have. In that case, that's our work. That's our opportunity. And we are completely free to do it badly. Raise your hand if you are aware of a circumstance where somebody did parenting badly. And we are free to do it well. The choice is always ours. So as you celebrate Labor Day, allow yourself to make something new from your work, to be the gift that you are, to share that gift, and allow yourself to be gifted in return. Because you deserve it. You are wonderful. So it is.
So it is.